No, I definitely think you touched on it. I think obviously it was wrong, but I think there was definitely a culture and a general attitude on Twitter at that time and a narrative that was very anti-black women. And I was in that black Twitter space at the
Hey guys, and welcome to Little Black Book. You know what time it is? Yes. Talking to you guys about the ZEZE MILLZ interview with Gliz, the rapper, friend of one Asen. Now, before we go any further, do me a favor, do yourself a favor, make sure you like, share, subscribe, click on that bell button for the notification of the uploads. And for those of you returnees, you got the minerals, you got a mineral. And don't forget to also as well, make sure you grab and join the team by grabbing yourself a Minerals Gang merchandise, alright? And also as well, grab yourself one of these as well, the shade heads, man, shade hats, baby, and use my little Blackbook91 as a 10% discount on the link down below. So let's get into the thing. Let's talk about it. So obviously, watch the interview, ZEZE MILLZ and Gliz. I'm gonna try and keep it on just an interview. Personally, I felt we could have got a bit more out of Gliz, but you know, overall, I can work with it. I feel it was a decent interview. Anyway, so the main thing I want to talk about really here is about race and ethnicity, because I think the overall conversation was going down to the fact that obviously there were tweets that were coming up in 2000, I think, 8 years ago, 2012, whatever, for Gliz.
in that black Twitter space at the time, and I fed into it really. I guess I was just trying to fit in whatever. I was just running jokes, trying to get clout. Obviously, it was the wrong thing to do, and it's disgusting. But I think I was just, I joined in with that whole attitude at the time on Twitter.
Gliz would have been 17. Now, first of all, most people that were tweeting in 2008, I would have been what, 20, right? I would have known better, right? Because I'm of an older age, right? So I understand the culture at the time in 2012 where there was a lot of tweeting against black women. There was a lot of vitriol that was going around at that time, okay? Now, here's the thing. He said something which really intrigued me. He said, when asked about why he was doing it, he said, obviously, look, at the time, you know, there was these tweets that were going around. Here's the thing. He isn't the only problem. In fact, he's not the bigger problem. The bigger problem is those who were around him. Yep. Yep, the Bible says good company corrupts bad morale, right? Bad company corrupts good morale. I don't know what the frick I was thinking. So yeah, bad company corrupts good morale, right? So him being in an environment, remember his friendship group is often a black community, right? Those same guys too were also tweeting madness at the time, right? He grew up around that, right? That's why he can make that tweet. It's not just because he decided to. Remember, trying to be funny oftentimes like he would have been a social thing, right? So you say something because you know the social gathering or the group would have been laughing at the tweet. Like he said, you're trying to get clout. How do you get clout though? The clout can only be happening if you're going to be very anti, or you're going to try and fit in and try to be funny. You know what I'm saying? Or you know what I'm saying? Like, so the fact that he chose that route, which was to degrade black women. Let me be very clear. I think ZEZE kind of said this as well. You like black women, but you degraded them. And this is not just a white person problem. This is a black male problem. That is why he was able to get away with it. Those who were around him would have been black males. More than likely were making the same jokes because he was comfortable enough to make that joke. Being a white person. Why? Because the crew around him weren't going to check him. Because they were probably making the same type of joke.
Friends, I've spoke to a lot of people around me about this since it happened. And a lot of people have said the same thing to me where it's like, you know, we didn't see you any different to us. And I think for me as well, I didn't really see myself any different to them. But obviously now, where I'm a bit older and, you know, I've grown up a bit more and I've matured, I obviously understand that my life and, you know, the opportunities, the privilege, whatever I have is obviously very different to my friends and the people around me.
Oh. Do you understand? Like, in 2012, when I was young like that, you couldn't make that joke around me. I wouldn't have it. Like, my boys that were around me were, we used to say even like pro-black, if you want to call it that. You understand? So that would have never, no one in our team would have been able to get away by saying, blood, man, I don't like black girl or this or black girl. Would have been cussing you left, right and centre. Because a team doesn't accept that. Our conformity, our social gathering, our social group does not accept you saying any of those kind of things which are degrading, putting down black women for fun. We don't do it, blood. We just don't do them things. We can make jokes, yeah, but at the end of the day, fam, when those type of jokes where they're stereotypical, racial, and degrading, we wouldn't be making those jokes because at the end of the day, we love black women, right? Or right? Now, you can love black women, and this is where the difference is. And I think ZEZE put it as well. You can love black women, but you love a certain type of black woman. It's not black women that you love. You love pretty gal, yeah? Or pretty girl with Eurocentric features. Yeah, let's make it like that, yeah? Either the pretty, so you might hear you're pretty for a black girl or a black ting, yeah? But it's because that black girl's got Eurocentric features, all right? Or her beauty just transcends or spans across different races, if you want to call it that, right? And I'm going to break that down as well. So those comments that he would have been making in 2012, his comfortability didn't come from the fact that he was white. It came from the fact that his friendship circle around him were comfortable. That's a problem, because when black women say black men don't defend them or black men don't stand up for them, it's in this that we're talking about. It is in the comfortability, not only for white people to say it, for black men to say it. See, that if it was black men making certain jokes and we love our black women, and if someone comes in from the outside, we can, hey bro, it's a bit like the N-word. Bro, we can say the N-word, but you can't. You can't say that, right? But none of that was happening because he was comfortable enough to say those jokes. Do you understand? Some of the jokes he made, like, you know, if you get pink girl's vagina, whatever, you get a pink eye, right? Some of these jokes are actually ingrained in in the terminology that was used to degrade black women over the centuries, because it was the only way to keep a black woman down, right? Keeping her close to, making it almost a taboo, making it as if you touch her, you get a disease, right? This is the white man's history in terms of colonialism, right? That racism that they brought in, yeah, making a black woman this beast, making her untouchable, but then at the same time, then hypersexualizing at the same time. If you want to go and research, I've done videos on this, but Sarah J. Bartman, right? The woman that had a big behind, whatever, yeah, accentuated features, they put her in a zoo-like type features, right? So at the same time, whilst they're calling her a beast, they're at the same time hypersexualizing her. And so what you see, like this is what ZEZE was touching about when it comes to were you fetishizing black women. I'm not going to say he was. He's grown up in the culture, and this is very important, because when we're talking about race now, I want to break some things down to you. But before I get into that, let me just explain this. So, you know, there's a hypersexualization that can happen, and then a fetishization that can happen. So necessarily, you might not like black women, you just fetishize them, right? Which is like a sexual drive and energy, a hunger for them. Not necessarily that you love them, but there's a sexual drive and energy and hunger for them. And it can be masked, I want you to hear me, it can be masked as I love black women, right? You just love the sex part of it, which drives you to like them, but not necessarily love them indeed, right? I'm not again saying that's what he is. But in terms of the actual interview, you know, he made some very critical points talking about where he grew up. And this is where it gets interesting, because when we talk about race and ethnicity, everyone hears the word race is a construct. But I want to break some things down terminology-wise, so you get a better understanding of what we're actually really talking about.
Obviously, I'm around a lot of Nigerian people. I basically kind of grew up in a Nigerian house as well. It's just what I know, like, it's just...
Why?
What do you mean,
why did you grow up in a Nigerian house?
Because obviously my closest friend, Dre 6, who I obviously make music with as well, I kind of grew up in his house.
All right, so race refers to a person's physical characteristics such as bone structure, skin, hair, and eye color, right? Race is understood by most people as a mixture of physical, behavioral, and cultural attributes. Very important. The cultural aspect also denotes in talking about ethnicity, right? Because our ethnicity also comes with a culture. This is why we see in UK we have a black culture, UK black culture, because the culture of us is slightly different from the culture of our ethnicity coming from back home, right? So those who are Caribbean black, who were born in the Caribbean and coming over, their ethnicity and their culture, I should even say, sorry, their culture is slightly different from ours, right? They would have installed their culture, but because we're born and bred in UK, it's slightly different. The African who came over to UK, right? Their culture is slightly different from the black child that was born in UK and grew up here, right? So we call it intersectionality here. And then where you see there is a black British, okay? And even in the black British, there are subsections of that. But let's just keep it as black British. The black British urban culture, if you want to call it like that, okay, there is a subscribing to. Some of these things we know about. Like, for instance, when we talk about culture, you got to break it all the way down. So let me break culture for you down. Culture is like knowledge and stories. That's like, for instance, like you might say, oh, we all got beat when we were younger. traditionals and rituals, like how we celebrate Christmas, you know, certain things that happen like that. The greater community, how we treat each other, you know what I'm saying? When we see each other, we nod, say, yeah, appreciate you, say, we know them things. The values of black folk, we have certain values that we hold, you know what I'm saying? Food and drink, for instance, you know, KA, super malt, rice and peas and stew, you know what I'm saying? Rice and stew, you know what I'm saying? Jollof rice, them kind of things there. The arts, so we talk about even, let's say, for instance, music, jazz, hip-hop, rap, blues, how it's attached to our culture, tools and objects. You know, like, you know, you're at home, everyone has a seasoning brush, innit? You know the ones, innit? I'm gonna wear. And then like things like technique and skill. So how black people are very resourceful. For instance, we can make a beat out of anything. How we can make a joke out of anything. How we laugh and we, anyway, how we do things basically, right? How we use certain things. All of that kind of ties into what a culture is, right? And when you participate in the culture, you subscribe to some of these things that happen within the culture. The problem is that the culture, which is oftentimes from the ethnicity, can get tied into race, which is a construct that was made through colonialism. Right? And unfortunately, because of race has been tied into an evil colonialism, which was to try and separate and to cause superiority. Yeah, because remember, race is based on physical description and features. Yeah, so for instance, my nose is political, my lips are political, my hair is political, my eyes can become something political. You know what I'm saying? Even where the color of my skin is, okay, right, and the shades of it become very political. And when we're talking about women especially, it becomes even more political. Yeah? If you watch my videos, you see I've talked about that. So it's very important to understand all of this, because when we're talking about race and ethnicity, he mentions this, right? He talks about where he grew up. So though he's not black in race as a Negroid, because there are 5 types of races that came out of this, if you want to call it that. One is the Negroid, the black race. The Australoid, the Australian Aborigine Papuan race. The Capoid, which is the Bushman Hentots race. I don't even know what that is, baby. Mongoloid, which is Oriental Armenian race. And then Caucasoid, which is a white race, right? So all of these are to do with pigmentation kind of style, right? In terms of how we begin to separate people, okay? And so the Negroid, right? He may not be Gliz. Gliz may not be the Negroid, okay? He will definitely be the Caucasoid sort. Blood, you know what I mean, but he subscribes to the culture, okay, and he grew up around in the culture. That's why he said about how he grew up in a Nigerian home, and as he grew up in a Nigerian home, he began to take in the cultural aspect. Now here the problem is that though he may be culturally on the same level as me and experiencing what I'm experiencing in terms of cultural stuff of benefit, when we get out into the world, even though race is a construct, it's a construct that has some level of benevolence and manifestation. What am I saying? I'm saying that in the world, they see black and they see white. They see Caucasoid and Negroid, right? And that's how they make decisions. So unfortunately, even though we grew up in the same culture, we grew up in the ends, right? A lot of us grew up in the ends, we grew up in the bits, yeah? Yeah, we grew up in together, kicking ball, you know, robbing stores. I don't do that, but I'm saying robbing stores, doing all kind of things, playing round out, hide and seek and all this stuff. Like, we grew up together, doing things, yeah? That was our culture. Our UK culture, which is, if let's say UK black culture we might have grown up in, he may not have been of the race, but he grew up in the culture. But when he gets outside, yeah, and interacts with the outer world, he is a Caucasoid. And that Caucasoid, the way he gets treated is different to the Negroid. Do you understand? So though it's a construct, we get treated differently based upon our physical attributes. Ethnicity, let me break that down for you. Okay. Ethnicity, however, refers to cultural factors including nationality, regional culture, ancestry, and language. Now, here's something that happened. Our language, obviously, which is tied into normally our native lands, etc., etc., he tapped into that. So though he was not of the race, he tapped into the ethnicity part of it, where he spoke Yoruba, right? And ZEZE gets onto him saying, why don't you speak Dutch or whatever? Like, he's like, look, I didn't speak Dutch because obviously, blood, I don't speak Dutch.
If I do this, I know my target audience are going to get gassed by this. And was there a part of you that thought, if I do this, I'm going to be deemed as cool?
No.
So then that's what I'm saying. Why would you choose to use Yoruba and not where your heritage is from?
I just thought it sounded good. I liked the language. I thought the way I wrote it, I thought it sounded nice.
So you don't like where you're from? You don't like the language enough to use it in your...
I mean, I don't know the Dutch side of my family at all. I just know that I'm Dutch. But of course, I like where I'm from. But That's just what I was around all the time.
You understand? Like, I don't associate with that side of things. Now, here's the thing. Do I believe he chose Yoruba on purpose? Yeah, of course. Man knew the market. Like, I'm not gonna beef you for that, fam. I'm not here to beef him on those things. I don't think they need to beef it. You mentioned that you spoke in Yoruba because you knew your market. Right? It's good business skills. You knew that your market, your music you're making, because the type of, remember, even the music we're making now, the arts is tied into black culture. Yeah? It's tied into black culture. You understand? And so therefore, when he began to make the rap, of course he's going to use Yoruba, because the audience of ethnicity and culture, being black culture, but then ethnicity too wise, obviously speak Yoruba, Hausa, you know, we speak Tree if you're Ghanaian, what's it, Ga, whatever. I don't know other languages. Sorry, I don't know Ghanaian Nigerians. Don't hold me to anything. You know what I'm saying? What do you call it? Lingala. You know what I'm saying? All of that's tied into our ethnicity. You understand? We have our own native tongue, and he chose to tap into that because it was of the culture. You understand? Because the black culture itself takes in all ethnicities and brings it into one melting pot. When you're in the Europe and the Americas, you are black. When you're in Africa, you are ethnicity. What's your country? What are you? Are you Ghanaian? Are you Liberian? Are you Senegalese? Like, are you Nigerian? What are you? So in UK, that's why we refer to as black, because it's Negroid, because we're operating under the system of what the colonial master was. When we're back in Africa, we operate underneath our normal guys, which is, where are you from? What country are you from? Oh, from Ghana. Da, 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 da. All right, cool. You're from this country. Okay, cool. So here, when he was dealing with the music aspect of things, it was important to understand that I could understand why he felt comfortable. You understand? Like I said, the comfortability wasn't a problem. The problem with the comfortability was when he decided to tweet those tweets, because his team made him comfortable. His team made him comfortable that that conversation would be cool. And just kind of even just elaborate on this as well, when we're talking about obviously the actual interview as well. When we're talking about race and ethnicity and talking about who can tap in and who can't tap in, you know, he's mentioned about his white privilege. And look, one of the things that's really amazing is that a lot of people say they understand their white privilege. And the whole point is, people may understand it, but they may not react to it. Here's the thing, what I mean by that is, a lot of men know they got a privilege. They won't do anything about it. They won't use it to benefit other people. Like he mentioned, obviously saying, when he gets to a higher...
When I'm able to build that platform where I do have a platform, I have a voice, and I can speak on these issues, and I influence people that listen to my music or like me, can listen to what I say, and I have a platform where I can speak on these things, then of course I'm going to use it. I use it now, but obviously I don't have a mad reach, but in my everyday life, like I support my friends, I support my family, I support people around me that are black. I do what I can. But
platform, he'll begin to then kind of help, you know, speak about these issues. But the point of the matter is this: if you weren't doing it when you were little, you wouldn't do it when you're big. A lot of people get into this idea of thinking they will do something. It's a bit like, oh, when I get on a pitch, I'm going to do this. Blah. But if you've not been training, blah, when you get on a pitch, you ain't going to do it. A lot of times, fam, you think that when you get to the top, you're going to be able to speak about this and that. You're not going to do it. Do you know why? Because you were never doing it when you were small. If you ain't practiced it, it's not going to be part of your language. And you have to understand as well, you're going deeper into the lion's den where race is an issue, where race is used as a thing, a tool to be able to keep people subjective. So if they now say to you, listen, you can't make that, like Alexandra Burke said it, you know, oh, that music is a bit too black, you know, got to be careful. Now, you coming out to speak about white privilege when you're on a particular platform may not benefit the brand, and therefore now you're going to be shut up. Now, if you haven't practiced it when you were young, when you were small, you're never going to do that when you're bigger, because you never practiced that. It's not your natural flow. You understand? And you're not going to want to risk losing the bag. So asking him also as well to donate £10,000 to a charity proves nothing. What we need him to do is be educated. You see, when you educate somebody, yeah, they speak it out. When you educate somebody, it comes out, because what you put in is going to come out. If he just pays 10 grand into a charity, it doesn't mean he's changed. You understand? It's a great public affairs that you've done there. Great, you know, clean up your image and everything. But it doesn't show that you've changed.
When you ask you a question like, what do you think I could do?
I think that your first 10 bags that you make from your single or whatever you decide to release, you should donate it to a charity that helps black women. Because
I hear that.
really, sorries, we've heard sorries, a lot of sorries,
100.
and it's a bit boring, if I'm being honest with you. And when I saw your...
genuine changes. Educate him in his white privilege. Educate him in how he can support black women. Educate him in what is race, what's ethnicity. Educate him in how best we can get him to help support the causes, rather than just paying 10k on your first check. Actually look at how can he actually begin to change the environment that he's in. Yeah, but it comes through education. And if he's not educated, I guarantee you, paying 10k don't change his mindset. Paying 10k don't change his mentality. Do you understand? And I get Zeze's issue, the fact that black women are tired of hearing, you know, that people are sorry for their tweets. But we're dragging a man onto this thing, yeah? And maybe she tried to get them. I'm going to just put the disclaimer. Maybe she tried, ZEZE, to get the people on, right? But we're not going to load the whole of our madness that we've been seeing on Twitter, where people have been doing colorism tweets, all right, for the longest time, and then drag everything and put him as a scapegoat. They say, no, Jesus already done that. We don't need another Jesus here. Let him be done for what he's done, but drag the rest of them black men that were not doing anything. Because there's a whole lot of black men out there who need dragging onto your platform, ZEZE, who need to come and talk and explain why they were making tweets in 2012. Why they found it acceptable to tweet about dark skin. And remember, this also agenda doesn't just affect black women. They're talking about dark skinned women, not black women. You understand? That's why I said that there's different levels to this. They're talking about dark skinned women who they don't might particularly find attractive. Right? They're the ones they're talking about those tweets where they're saying about, you know, would I marry a black woman, or black, you're so dark. Remember, one of his tweets was, you're so dark. It was not about black. It was about the dark shade of black. There's a difference here. So you see that colorism, and that is allowed. He's allowed to say those opinions because the boys around him probably thought the same thing. Probably had the same mindset. Because if they didn't, they would have checked him at that stop. They would have checked him at the time. The boys that he had around him then, I'm not talking about now because I don't know the boys, they might be different. The boys that he had then would have stopped him. Yeah? Where did he pick up that language from? This is where black men need to take a responsibility, because a lot of us also perpetuate the same mentality, the same thoughts, right? And it becomes an issue of race, especially because it's talking about her hair, how loud she is apparently, how aggressive she is apparently, how uneducated she might be, how she might not speak softly, yeah, how ratchet she is apparently, yeah, how hard or how tough her hair is, yeah, how dark her skin is, yeah, and how dirty it is, how you don't find it attractive because she's dark, right? That's where we're talking about, right? That's often where the issue is, not necessarily with black women, but with a certain type of black women, and we just kind of label it all as black women, but really he's not talking about just black women, he's talking about specific type of black women. Why? Because he was happy to like black women when he was there at that age. So did you see it? Did you see the understanding? So it's colorism, not racism here for him. Colorism. You understand? Colorism. Yeah? And if you know anything about colorism, I've done videos on that as well. So there's a lot to unpack in this particular video as well in regards to that.
Or if you were fetishizing black women. Because one of your tweets was, lick out a black girl and wake up with a pink eye. This girl is so black, LO, with loads of O's and then an L. This is why I'm reluctant to marry a black girl. And then the one that you quote tweeted was, clapped black girls, fucking hell, whatever. Then you tweeted, mixed race babies soon come. So which is it? Are you fetishizing black women, or do you not like black women? Like, which one is it?
It's not fetishizing. It's crazy because even then, I still did like black girls.
But was it a certain type of black girl?
No.
Because
no.
that's another thing that we see in the black community.
So yeah, I want to kind of just wrap it up and say, look, do you know what? It was an interesting interview. I think we could have got a bit more information from him. I think one of the interesting things is, obviously, like I said, is not him. Is now the level of blame has to be shoveled not at him, but who was around him at the time. Because he was 17. Listen, not 12, 17. He had some level of understanding and knowledge. What boys were around him at that time, yeah, that enabled him to feel comfortable enough to make those type of jokes, yeah? Because if you're making jokes about my mum, I wouldn't have it. Why? Because you're around me. No, you can't do that. So we know we know that we can say something when it actually hurts us. When he was talking about the black women, who was around him, who didn't defend, who didn't check him, and who didn't tell him about himself at the time. Do you understand? I've got no problem with him doing black music. That is my problem. My problem is that fact of where is a source of information that's coming to him that is poisoning his mindset at a time to be able to say those things that he said. Because we've heard him before. It's not originating from him. It's not originating from him. Someone has. It's come from false narratives and mythologies about black women, dark skin black women. Okay, those who are not close to Eurocentric looks and beauty standards, who we can mock because they're closer to what, animals, rather than being close to what, white femininity, right? Because that's where it starts from. But I don't want to go too much into that anyway. I think it was a semi-decent interview. I think we could have got a bit more out of him, a bit more information about who he is. And yes, he went viral, and he's absolutely right. His time will come. And one thing I want to say as well, look, his time will come. Look, he will get cut a blight. Do I think there's a white privilege in the sense of him rapping some bars and saying it in Yoruba and then finally getting ahead?
I was a black boy, and I did that freestyle, and I said the exact same thing in the exact same way. It probably, almost definitely, wouldn't have gone off the way it did.
Absolutely not.
And I know, and 100% I know that I have that privilege in a white space, especially like how I look. I don't look like how I speak. I don't look like the things that I talk about or rap about. I'm 6'6" with a bunch of white people, a bunch of black people around me in a black space. So it's like, I think labels probably look at me and think we could push him to the masses quicker than somebody else, and it's something that I recognise 100%.
I'm like, yes, there is. Right, there is a bit of that, right? But it's normal because somebody from a different race, Caucasoid, yeah, has decided to interact with your ethnicity, your language. Of course, just like in Africa, when we see a white person who's speaking our language, we all get, whoa, he's not a problem. We are acting like we've never seen it before. We are acting like the Massa did for us when he sees a black person dance. Oh my God, they can dance. Like, let's put him on the stage. Let's make him entertain us. Right? It's the exact same thing. It's like we're black, and I'm not saying about reverse racism here. I'm just saying the same kind of thinking, which is that we see a white person of a different race, we're like, whoa, he's doing what we do. Whoa, 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 it's new, right? So yeah, I hope I haven't missed anything, but I hope you guys like, share, subscribe, click on that bell button for notification of uploads. More love, more love, more love.